Welcome to Make and Decorate, a podcast for makers who love to sew, quilt, and decorate. Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Make and Decorate podcast with Stephanie. I'm Stephanie. This is episode 75, season 4. The topic of this episode is decorating a cozy home. Plus, I have some sewing and knitting updates and some Netflix and YouTube recommendations. So I've received feedback from listeners that they love the decorating episodes, and I also love to publish decorating episodes around this time of year when the weather changes and we spend more time indoors looking at how to freshen up a room or even seasonal decorating. So I'm going to dive into this main topic first. And the second segment will be my usual chit-chat part with all of the sewing, quilting, and crafty updates. First, I want to remind you to check out my Mighty Networks group, Make and Decorate Friends. It is free, private, and for anyone interested in joining us. We're posting pictures of our projects, works in progress, and anything we make, plant, cook, and adore. Basically, anything creative that gives you joy, you want to share it with the group. We love seeing other people making beautiful things. So please join the group and let's chat with friends who love to make stuff as much as you do. Also, please consider supporting the podcast at patreon.com/makeanddecorate. Patreon is a subscription-based platform you can sign up and cancel at any time. Every month, you receive a bonus episode. Most of my guests continue chatting with me and share behind the scenes and extra content for my patrons. This is the only source of income for this podcast, and I truly appreciate the support of my patrons. All right, let's decorate a cozy home. It all begins with layers. You often hear designers, artists, and landscapers talk about layering, creating dimension, keep the eye moving across the design. What really does that mean? Let's use a quilt as an example. There are layers that make up a quilt, right? The top layer, the batting, backing, quilting, and binding. Each of those layers adds dimension, interest, movement, and joy. So let's do that in our home. Add dimension, interest, movement, and joy. I have 5 main layers you can add to your home decor: walls, floors, furniture, windows, and accents. So number 1, walls. Paint and wallpaper are the first and most impactful layer in a room. The color of the walls can affect our physical and intellectual psychology. And basically, that just means it can really influence the way we feel, our moods, and even like stimulated to, want to eat. So like the red and orange colors stimulate and raise the pulse rate, while cool colors like blue, violet, and green are soothing and can lower blood pressure and stress. If there is a room that irritates you, it might be the color. Red, yellow, and orange, of course, again, are stimulating, which is good for kitchens in high-traffic areas. Blue, green, and purple colors are calming, peaceful, and serene. So bedrooms and sitting rooms are good places for these colors. Gray, the ever most popular color or non-color of the past at least 5+ years, doesn't really promote any direct psychological properties. But it can be suppressive and depressing. This is why we want to hibernate in winter months as well, because we get depressed with gray skies, or at least I do. Black is also suppressive, and it absorbs. It absorbs light, and maybe psychologically it can absorb your energy. Who knows? White is the opposite of black, and it reflects light. So that's why, it's been the long touted idea that small rooms and low ceiling heights, all need to be painted white. Otherwise, you will feel it makes the room smaller if you painted a dark color. But that's not necessarily true. I am sitting in my 7-foot by 7-foot office, and it has a double window, so tons of light streams into this little room. And I have a high gloss navy blue paint on the walls, and I love it. It's beautiful. It recedes, and the things that I put on the walls really stand out. So just remember that when you're thinking about colors for your walls. Pure white can be cold and sterile, so I would say to stick with warm whites. They're best in most circumstances. And talking about wallpaper is, a lot of people are afraid of wallpaper in larger spaces, which is probably, understandable, because when you're looking at a small piece of wallpaper, it's very hard to envision it on a large 9-foot wall, a 9-foot tall wall. And then multiply that if you have a 20-foot room by, 16 feet wide. That's a lot of wallpaper. So whatever you choose, you will either have to love the pattern or go with something neutral, because walls really are a background. That's kind of like a base layer that you will continue to layer upon to create movement and dimension. Busy, large patterns are great for foyers and powder rooms, and even in laundry rooms, or as an accent wall. However, be careful with accent wall colors, like a paint-colored accent wall or a wallpapered accent wall. Sometimes they can just look like they're just out of place, sticking out like a sore thumb. They make no relationship to the rest of the room. And so that's why you might hear lots of designers may have a really dislike for accent walls. And that's the reason why. I don't have a huge dislike, but I just think that there is a way to do it where it will support everything else that's going on in the room and seem like it belongs, and accents. So don't be afraid to wallpaper an accent wall, but just, the whole point of this podcast in decorating in layers is that you have to sort of think of an overall plan. Just have an idea, not like you have to have every little piece picked out, but have a general overall plan of what you want your color scheme to be. Have an idea of maybe what you want to add to the walls, whether it's artwork or framed pictures, that sort of thing. Whether you're going to put an area rug in on the hardwood floors or wall-to-wall carpeting. So stuff like that. And then if you have that big overall plan, it's much easier then to go through the layers and incorporate layer by layer to finish the room. All right, so layer 2 are floors. And again, floors are background colors, so keeping it simple is best. Busy patterns on wall-to-wall flooring can be too busy. unless you're going to put solid colors everywhere else, which is not really that great of a balance, but it can be done. So that's why sometimes you see the black and white checked floors, but they are complemented by pops of color and not too busy fabrics in the same space. Foyers and powder rooms, again, like I said, are good places to do patterned floor tiles. You want to be careful and not do like a patterned floor and a super busy patterned wallpaper. But one or the other is really striking and can be really pretty. Area rugs are considered accents, so they can be a statement piece with lots of color and pattern, but they can also be treated as a background. So if you want, it's a personal choice. So if you want a very neutral area rug because you want to put some, fabrics with pattern, maybe geometrics and so forth on your pillows and maybe on a chair, then you might want to keep your area rug more textured or tone on tone, neutral colors. But I really enjoy like in a statement area rug piece that sort of captures the color palette of the entire room. It sort of anchors the room and pulls together the color palette. In fact, sometimes people love to start, and even designers, lots of designers like to start a color palette with the area rug. So it's something also to consider. All right, so layer 3 is furniture. Invest in the big pieces that you could not live without, like seating and sleeping. You have to have somewhere to sit, right? But you don't have to have like little end tables. You have to have a bed in order to sleep, but you don't necessarily need the ottoman or bench at the end of the bed as much as you need the bed. So invest in those pieces the most as far as quality, because it's where you spend a lot of your time. And quality upholstery is key and important, and you just invest in the best quality that you can find, that you can afford, that's in your budget. Quality is out there, so keep that in mind with your big pieces, seating and sleeping, and beds and mattresses. You spend what do they say, a third of your life sleeping in bed. So you want to have a good supportive mattress as well. And then on these big pieces, keep the style classic and stay away from trends. In the design work that I do, we design for like lasting classic impressions and things that are not going to age out in 6 months to a year. And then really back in the day, people spent money and they bought their furniture and they stayed with it forever. And that furniture was quality, well-made heirloom pieces. So those are the pieces that you can find at thrift shops, estate sales, consignment shops. So I always look for pieces like that because I know that they're going to be wood furniture that was made before the 2000s were generally much more, they had a lot more quality with them, and they weren't made to be disposable, in other words. So take a look at those shops, and it's hard to visualize, but if you enjoy painting furniture, you can always turn around a brown, like, if it's like the finish is just scratched up and everything and you want to paint it white, it will change, it will brighten up the space, and you'll have a beautiful piece added to your room, and you didn't pay an arm and a leg for it, right? Upholstery is a good way to go with that as well, but know that you will probably need to reupholster that piece, definitely, because upholstery, the foam just it disintegrates over time. So, and the fabrics too are usually not, you know, they're worn. So there, if you do get upholstery, you can get them for extremely good prices at thrift shops and consignment shops. And then you'll invest in fabric and reupholstery service and end up with a new quality piece of upholstery. With upholstery, you want to keep the fabric neutral, textured, or solid fabrics. Will keep the upholstery from looking dated after a while. And then you can layer on beautiful, bright statement fabrics with the accents. But you don't have to go that way. So if, let's say, you absolutely love a fabric, let's say toile. Toile is a very classic fabric. It never goes out of style. It really doesn't. It's a very classic pattern. And that could go on a sofa if you love pattern like that. It can go on a chair, like a lounge chair. Chairs are great places to put pattern fabrics because they're smaller and it's not such a huge piece in the room with all of that patterned fabric. So chairs are great to do fabrics on, and ottomans. Go crazy with ottomans. You can put just statement fabrics. Ottoman is small enough you could even kind of go trendy if you want to go there, but that's like an easier piece to get reupholstered and not sink in too much money to do it. The other thing is just to keep the size and scale in mind of your furniture. And that's really hard to do because a lot of times people will get a nice big cushy deep sofa, and then either they can't fit it through the doorway to get into the room, or they do get it into the room and it is massive. So think about that. And like a standard depth of a sofa that you're just going to sit in is about 36 inches deep. If you want a lounging sofa that you're going to like cozy up in and curl up, read a book, or lay down, like just lounge and watch movies, then you're going to look at the 38-inch to 40-inch depth. 42 deep is really getting a little too much. It's like, it's personal, but I'm just telling you for scale, a 40-inch deep sofa is very comfortable. Of course, there's always exceptions. A 42-inch deep sofa, or like a whole sectional of that size and scale, could be absolutely perfect for a large space, like for a 25-foot by 32-foot family room. So it's just, keeping scale. That is just what you have to go by. The size of your room or space that the furniture is going in. You just want to be able to keep circulation moving. So you need the space to walk to the piece, and maybe around, or if there's a walkway, it's a traffic way, you have to keep that clear. So that is all about the importance of scale. All right. So layer 4, one of my favorites, are windows, basically window treatments. Window treatments are such an important layer to any room. And I think that it just gets kind of swept into the wayside because A, it can be expensive, and B, people are very hesitant or determined to not cover up windows. They want to see the view, but you will be able to see the view if you do your window treatments in the right way for that purpose. You will be able to see outside your window. Window treatment, window shades raise up and drapery panels open. So there's a smart way to do it if one of your main priorities is you don't want to lose the view out of the window. It's a really important layer because it not only softens the hard architectural lines and surfaces and makes the room pretty, but it's very important to address for energy saving and protection of your investment pieces from fading in the sunlight. All of this investment furniture that you have put into the space and an area rug, fabrics, you don't want them to fade in 6 months because your windows are wide open, south facing or west facing, even east facing with the morning sun. So you have to protect it. You have to protect even wood flooring. It will fade in the sunlight. So just remember that. Functionally, window treatments also, in addition to protecting from sun control, from the sun fading, they can provide privacy. If you live on a busy street, you definitely will need privacy. Bathrooms need privacy. Insulation, especially in places where you have very cold winters or very hot summers or hot weather all around. So it's really good for insulation and sound absorption. No echoes in the room. So aesthetically, it softens and it really finishes the look of a room. And this is an important opportunity to use patterned fabrics because window treatments they have height and they're vertical, and it's a good place to use a big pattern repeat. It makes a statement. It adds really interest to the room, especially if your upholstery pieces are all solids. You have leather in the room. You have solid flooring, solid walls. A patterned window treatment, it will just lighten up that room and make it so gorgeous. It really, really makes a difference. And yes, patterned fabric can be dated, trendy, but there's also classic patterns that can be used on window treatments, because window treatments are, usually are kept for years at a time. And so maybe you'll have a window treatment up for at least 5 years before you change it out. And sometimes you'll have it up for 20 years. Who knows? But it's not something that you change out seasonally. So choosing a pattern that's classic and that won't get dated would be like a leafy vine pattern, even a tone on tone if you're, adverse to like a bunch of busy colors. Simple florals, geometrics even adds very good interest on window treatments. So yeah, check out those types of fabrics, and it won't be too much, especially if they are just stationary panels. Stationary drapery panels are just that. They're primarily for decorative reasons, and they're beautiful, and they add so much to a room, and they don't require nearly as much fabric as it would take if you had to close the draperies across like a 72-inch wide window. Consider stationary draperies, and stationary draperies really frame windows really well, and they layer very nicely with Roman shades, woven shades, any hard treatment like blinds and shutters. We call them hard treatments, blinds, shutters, shades. They need to be softened as well. So a pair of drapery panels frames it, and it really just creates this just beautiful vignette. Contrary to somewhat popular opinion, drapery is not dated. Types and styles of draperies can be dated. For instance, the billowy ball gown draperies that puddled on the floor and were poofy and big. Those were done in the 90s. You know, the big shoulder pads, the big hair, the big draperies. Those are dated. But drapery panels with standard fullness, they go down to the floor. They're above the floor by 1/2 inch. That's really like a classic drapery panel. It's like a little black dress. It's just very classic and never goes out of style. So don't think that draperies are a thing of the past, because they really are not. Okay, so here's an example of even more layering. So it's kind of like a micro layering where window treatments can be done in layers. And it starts with your hard treatments or shades, blinds, as the first layer. And a lot of times, hopefully, if the window depth allows, it's very optimal to install those inside the window frame. And then you can install drapery panels outside of the frame, of course. And then over the drapery panels can be another layer of like a valance or a cornice. Now, valances and cornices they're not really used that much today. Some valances updated in styles are really nice. They're pretty and cute, and even as a single layer on a kitchen window. Remember, not covering up the glass of your window, so a valance is a great way to do that while still softening the window frame. So those are layers of draperies. And when you have the layers of like a shade, draperies with the decorative hardware, it just looks complete and beautiful. And it addresses your functional needs and your decorative needs. Let's talk about the closing draperies. So closing draperies are made of, they're drapery panels out of fabric that you close either, by hand with, I really recommend a hand baton. It's like a baton that's hooked onto the first drapery hook, and you use it to manually close the drapery and manually open it. The other way of opening and closing draperies across the window is by a draw mechanism and a center draw. So your draperies are split in the center of the window, and each half gets pulled back by pulling a cord at the end of your drapery rod. So they're called traversing draperies. Traversing rods are really helpful and necessary if you have very heavy fabric and a wide window and there's a lot of weight. So that will help to balance out the weight and not break when you're drawing the draperies open and closed. Otherwise, if it's a smaller size window, I really love decorative hardware and just like pulling the baton open and closed. But you definitely can't do that with a really heavy drapery panel. So that helps with the temperature and light control and privacy. So you can just do one layer, not do blinds. And when you open the draperies, your entire window is exposed. So it's not covering up any of your view. Draperies that open and close are really one of the best ways to have a completely open view during the day or whenever you want it, and then simply close them in the evening for privacy and energy savings, keeping the drafts out. I know Roman shades have been so popular the last decade, and they are very nice. I like Roman shades as well. But I think that there is a popular thought that Roman shades are, the hip and modern way to do window treatments, but then sometimes people are disappointed because it covers up like a third of their window when it's raised. So Roman shades are made from fabric, or it could be made from a woven material. But Roman shades, when they're pulled up, raised up, they stack. So the folds stack on top of each other, and depending upon how long the window is, the deeper the stack will get inside your window. So a fabric, a Roman shade is really not the best way to go if you want a complete view out of your windows. So if you've never thought that you wanted or even needed window treatments, revisit that, because you might be saving money in the long run and will enjoy the beauty that they add to a room. All right, we're at our last layer, number 5. And that layer is accents. Accents. Oh, it is such a broad category, but it's so much fun. And this is a fun layer where you can express your style, your story, and really make your room and your home yours. The other thing is that accents can easily be changed out. You can change these out seasonally. That's where you can really, buy the trendy candlestick holders or trendy vase or something like that. Have fun with that. And add accents. Now, accents are also wall decor. So I'll talk about wall decor, but first, let's talk about other types of accents that you can add to the room. One is heirloom pieces. And heirloom pieces, they will go in any style of room, even a contemporary style of room. If you have an antique, let's say, end table, or a desk, a small one, like a small writing desk, those will fit right in to a contemporary or transitional or traditional style room. They really add depth and immediately make your space unique in your story. Another thing is collected items from travels. So if you travel a lot and you collect, I don't know, paperweights or coffee table books or something like that, those can be displayed in a room as a collection of accents. So think about things that you have around the house that you've collected that could be decorative. Okay, and of course, the best accent are quilts. Quilts on the sofa, sectional, chair, on the wall. Quilts are so versatile and they're soft, they're textiles. So quilts just add so much coziness to a room and of a personal nature. And most of the times, these quilts are made from your very own hands or from the hands of somebody you love, a friend, something that you have memories of or remind you of that person that made it. Put your quilts out, have them on a quilt ladder, and, like the throw quilts that you make, those are meant to be out. I mean, again, because sunlight fades and definitely erodes fabrics over time, sometimes people will put really special quilts folded up in a closet, and then that's where they spend their entire life. So maybe you can do it like the museum conservators do, and just like we were talking about in the last episode with Jennifer Swope, their quilts and textiles really cannot be out for very long just because of the fact that they're fabric. They're very old fabric, some of them, and so they can't be exposed to light for long lengths of time. So maybe with your special quilts, you will rotate those on and off display in your living room or somewhere, so that at least you can enjoy it and other people can enjoy it as well. And maybe it's something that your grandmother or great grandmother made that could be displayed on the wall. And maybe, you only display it during the cloudy months so that it doesn't get so much, exposure to the sun, but pull them out. And even if it's for just like a season, and then you tuck them back up and store them safely back in the closet. All right. And then if you're into artwork is a great accent to add to the walls. And the one thing I wanted to say about art is that it is an accent. So it does not have to match your room's color palette. A lot of people think that it's supposed to match, and it's not. In fact, sometimes if it's too matchy, it makes the room a bit boring. So it's nice to have a splash of yellow and orange in a blue room. And especially if the room is all neutrals, put a splashy artwork, an artwork full of color on the wall, and it will really change the space and make it look really, really interesting. Just remember, it does not have to match, but just don't negate artwork that may have, a couple different colors than your primary color palette. And that applies to quilts too. They can have different colors as accents as well. All right, so let's talk about framed collages of pictures. This is a really popular thing to do because you want to see photos of your loved ones and the kids and pets and everything. So collages of pictures really, in my opinion, are never going to go out of style. Maybe the frames might. Like back 20 years ago, it was all about like the cherry wood and Frank Lloyd Wright sort of colored frames, mission style. But now, in the last 5+ years, people have going with white or black frames, and those are timeless. And anything metallic is also pretty classic. Gold leaf, silver leaf, gold, silver, and antiqued anything finish wise, pewter and that sort of thing. Those are always being done, I guess, with our projects, and they're pretty classic. So there's a wide range of classic types of frames that you can do in a collage that won't be dated too soon. You cannot go wrong with those. But here's how you can do it differently and make it really fresh. Have a few other things in that collage that are not framed photos. Maybe it's a framed quilt block or a knitted block or an EPP design that's in a frame. Or it's a wall accent sculpture, a plate, the plates that you hang on the wall. So combine those and mix those with your picture collage into a collage of both that and more accent pieces. And it really looks just like unexpected and interesting. And it's really a fun thing to do. And it's another way where you can display things that you have made. And let's say it is a leftover block from a quilt. And it's really pretty. And you could frame it and it will look absolutely gorgeous with the family photos. There's a client also that in their dining room, we had custom frames made, 2 of them and they were like deep shadow box type frames with like a really beautiful velvet fabric in the back. And she had collected these antique spoons, and the spoons were all displayed inside of the box. And they're just really gorgeous, really, really gorgeous. And we framed them, oh my gosh, like maybe 12 years ago. And at that time, painted frames were, the in thing. And so they were done in sort of like a red, um, well, kind of like a farmhouse red with some brushed, dry brush accents on the frame. Really beautiful frame. But now it's a little dated, and she wanted more of a platinum metallic looking frame, still carved, but updated. Oh my gosh, those turned out so amazingly beautiful. And initially, when you hear spoons, you're like, boring. Or old granny. But no, it's not. Anything that you have in a large number, like, 12 spoons, put those in a frame and it will look amazing in a dining room or even in a kitchen. So think about, even with sewing, if you collect, some people collect thimbles. And if you get a bunch of those together inside a frame together, they just make this impact, a wow factor. And yeah, so I don't know. I could just go on and on about the accents. And in fact, I really need to work on that myself in my own home. I have tons of stuff that I need to frame, waiting to be framed. I'm sure you do too, but this maybe just do a little bit at a time. That's what I've started to do. It doesn't have to be all of them. You could just do one right now or two. Few other accents that I just want to toss out there are hardcover books on a coffee table, console table. You can put coffee table size books under a table lamp. I have that in my living room. And I basically did it to raise the height of the lamp so that it would be over the picture frame that I had leaning on the table. But then when I put the book under there, I think it was one or two books maybe. Oh, I was like, wow, that actually looks really pretty. And the book kind of like, again, is unexpected. So you can put them under a table lamp. Flowers and houseplants. So houseplants are great to decorate with. They're a great accent, and they help the air quality, don't they? Producing some more oxygen. Although I don't do so well with houseplants. I think also it's because of the way our windows are on the house. It's a very narrow house. So I'm always envious of people who have these huge windows that have tons of daylight coming in, and they could have such beautiful plants over there. So anyway, yeah, layer up. Make your home a cozy retreat for you and your family. So if you have any design or decorating questions, email me at info@makeanddecorate.com. That's info@makeanddecorate.com. Or you can DM me in Instagram because I will answer some of these questions in future podcasts. And if it really works out and the questions keep coming, then I will make it a regular little segment to the podcast. And really, you can ask me anything. So about sewing, quilting, and now even knitting. I've been testing out lots of different types of knitting needles. So I have found the ones that I really like right now. I can talk about that. But decorating for sure. So let me know. Send me your question and I will see if I can answer it on a future podcast. Alrighty, so let's catch up with some chit chat. We are in full fall mode weather here in Chicago. I love it. And this year, the transition from summer to fall was really nice. You know, I usually complain about how when we change seasons here, it's always like extreme. We go straight from winter to summer sometimes, and winter might last forever. Or summer abruptly stops and then it's like winter before it becomes fall. But not this year. No, it has been really lovely. We had 80-degree weather a couple weeks ago. I mean, like into October, 80 degrees in Chicago. Yeah, that's really not a normal thing, but I loved it. And this week was the first week that we're really kind of, we're in the low 70s. And as it progresses, we're going to get, gradually into the 60s. And that you couldn't ask for a better fall, I don't think. The slow transition is really nice. And the colors have started changing later this season too. So I just noticed yesterday that the leaves I could notice the leaves finally starting to change a little, and it's really nice. So I hope that we have a really long color season of the leaves, full colors for a long time. That would be really nice. So yesterday, the day before this podcast publishes, October 20th, is my 20th wedding anniversary. 20! Wowza! Time really does fly. 2021 has been like a year of milestones for me. Turning 50 in March, my mom turning 70 in May, my niece turning 13 and becoming an official teenager, and now a 20-year anniversary for me and Joe. I remember my wedding day so clearly. It's just crazy. It's unfathomable to me to think that was 20 years ago. Oh, a lot younger back then too. But it was, this time of year, and it was the fall colors were in full peak. On our wedding day. Our wedding was up further north in Kohler, Wisconsin. It was kind of like it's a destination wedding that was kind of in between both sides of the families, because a lot of my husband's relatives are from northern Wisconsin. So the other reason why we did it in Kohler, Wisconsin was because it's a place of special meaning for us. And if you recognize the name Kohler, it is the household name of kitchen and bath fixtures. And that's what the town is named for. I think they have a Kohler factory up there. And every room had a beautiful Kohler jacuzzi tub and fancy bath designs. So it really does hold special meaning for us, because we often went there before we were married for their tea for two weekend packages. And by tea, I mean golf tea, not drinking tea. So we golfed all the time 20 years ago. I got really actually pretty good at golf. But Black Wolf Run was the first golf course that we played there. They had a couple of golf courses at that time. And at that time, too, it was really different. It was a small hidden gem up in, the middle of Wisconsin. And it just felt like just that, a hidden gem. So fast forward to our wedding in 2001, and they had just made a new golf course. It is a PGA golf course called Whistling Straits. It's a links style course, and it's right off of Lake Michigan, and it was designed by the famous Pete Dye, and they just played the Ryder Cup there. So if you're into golf, you know exactly what I just said there, and if you're not, you have no idea what I'm talking about. But basically, it is a very difficult golf course to play. It's made for, at a professional level. They have a lot of PGA and senior PGA events there. Yeah, we played that course 2 days before our wedding. So I did have the opportunity to play it. Now, because of the whole, that was before they had PGA there. That was just like as they opened. So we were lucky, because now it's like super expensive, of course. So, but we really have many sweet memories. The golf course part was called Black Wolf Run, and then we stayed at the American Club. So we're really fortunate that we experienced that. Because it really now is all big fancy pants PGA level. All right, on to sewing and creative updates. First, I've done 0 quilting in 2 months. A big fat 0. Yeah, that will change soon. But there's certain quilts that I really need to finish this year. And the very first one priority is my nephew's Mandalorian quilt that I started about this time last year. And then I stopped working on it when I realized it wasn't going to get done in time. So it definitely has to get done this year. And then I have my he's not newborn anymore. He's 3 months old now, but a baby quilt for my nephew that has no deadline, but that's the fancy forest quilt that I started a few months back. So that those blocks are almost done. So I do want to continue with that. It's on my design wall, so I look at it all the time. It's really cute to see like the little hedgehog and fox faces on my design wall. And then I have a really cute little fabric book to make for my other nephew who turned 2 in August. It is one of those pre-printed panels that's really easy to sew up, and batting is in between the layers, so technically it could be considered a quilt project. But I've got to get that done as well. But what I've been doing a lot of is sewing, just regular sewing. I've been making these 2 tablecloths. They're very big. There's a lot of fabric in this. There's 115 inches by about 64 inches wide. And the first tablecloth is done. It is a gorgeous Pierre Frey fabric, which is 100% cotton, made in France. The most challenging thing on there was the pattern match. And really, that went much easier than I thought it was going to be. I've done pattern matching before, but I don't know. I just geared myself up into like, oh, I cannot mess this up. This fabric is so expensive. So I had that kind of looming over my head, but it all worked out. That tablecloth is fine. It's the tablecloth that I'm working on now is difficult. And this fabric is 100% linen. It's a thick linen, textured linen with a check pattern. The check pattern is harder to pattern match than a big repeat pattern. It really is. But that's what the fabric is. And I had 3 issues right off the bat. The thickness of the fabric. It's like a thickness of canvas fabric. It has copious fraying. So I have to serge all the ends. Otherwise, it will fray down to nothing while I sew with it. And yeah, again, the check pattern on the bias. So That's the decorative detail on this tablecloth is the same fabric on the bias. It looks gorgeous. So this is a big banding. So it's a 3-inch banding all around the edge of the tablecloth. So because of the thickness of the fabric, you lose a bit of the size. So the cut banding strips are 7.5 inches. And yeah, so that's challenging to not only miter, but pattern match miter on the bias. I was smart enough to do a small mock-up piece and am able to practice the banding on the bias, the mitering of it, and that really has saved my butt. I work on that prior to stitching like the real deal, and thank goodness. It's a whole thing. It's been a process. So I cannot wait until this project is done because I have lots of other projects to get to. Okay, so it's because of this project and I've got a busier interior design schedule recently that I haven't been able to complete my pattern that I wanted to release by the end of October. It's a Christmas holiday pillow pattern, and I'm on my second make of this pillow. It's really so cute, and I am going to finish it, and I will still put the PDF pattern in my online shop when I finish it. So just stay tuned to the podcast and in my Mighty Networks group for more news on that. Okay, a little bit about knitting. I have been a knitting addict in the evenings. Since I've finally determined the knit and purl style that I connect with the best, I can now switch from knit to purl effortlessly. It has been a game changer. So thanks to the Arne and Carlos tutorial on the Norwegian style of purl stitching, I can now progress onto further knitting techniques and patterns. So English paper piecing is also a part of my new pillow pattern. So I have also been working on that in the evenings as well. So yeah, I've got stuff to do in the day. I have stuff to do at night. I kind of stay up a little too late because when I was knitting this fingerless mitt and I was so close to being done, but that so close was like another 45 minutes, maybe half hour. So I just, then I end up staying up later than I really should because I'm super tired the next day. So that's one of the things that I have to kind of balance out a little better. But I'm so excited right now about this whole knitting thing. Okay. This is a long episode, I know, but I haven't done a solo episode in season 4 yet. Have I? No, I haven't. It's been all guests, I think. Oh gosh, I think I did one. But anyway, let's go into Netflix and YouTube recommendations. Okay, Netflix. By now, you probably have heard of the new Netflix series called Squid Game. And it, Joe and I watched it the second it was released about a month ago. It's a Korean-made original TV series made for Netflix. And I wasn't going to add it to my recommendations initially because I thought it would be too violent and weird for most people. And but now it's become this global phenomenon. So I'm going to let you know what I thought about this series. I was really gripped by it and conflicting gripping with lots of, why am I watching this? It's too violent. But the story and the characters are what makes the series so amazingly good. It's hard to explain, but the stories and the characters are just so um, much of a huge part of the show. You have to give it at least 2 or 3 episodes because as the storyline develops, it really you understand then what happens in the first episode and why. I do recommend it, but you have to watch at your own discretion. I have a Hulu recommendation, and it is much more lighthearted than the Squid Game, and it is really, really good. They just had the season finale on this week. It's called Only Murders in the Building, and it has Martin Short, who is so funny, Steve Martin, and Selena Gomez. So that is a interesting, with the difference in the age range, but they have they start this crime podcast of a murder that happened in their building, and they live in this, big building in New York City, kind of historic. So it's so good. They play off of the age difference with Selena Gomez and then, Steve Martin and Martin Short. It's hilarious. And you don't guess who it is right away, which I also love. So it's really, really good. And it's, even though it's like a murder mystery show, it's lighthearted, and funny. So I think, most people will enjoy that show. All right. And YouTube. All right. So I've been catching up with Arne and Carlos's Sedestal series. They did over the summer. They traveled to Sedestal and they did video episodes with an artist or a maker of the traditional Sedestal knitting style and all a bunch of different things about the history of that place in Norway, and really good stories. They just do a really good job at that. So Arne and Carlos, of course. And then there is another channel that I've been watching a lot recently, and it is a Korean YouTuber. The channel is called Hammy Mommy, HAMIMOMMY. And I think Hami is the name of her daughter. So for a long time, I couldn't figure out why it was called that. And then she mentioned it in one of the episodes. But I find her videos really relaxing and inspiring. So it's a vlog style day in a life of a young Korean family. And she has 2 little children. The daughter is so cute. The woman on the show is very lovely, and she's creative. So she does cooking, gardening, crafting. Not that much crafting, but some of her episodes have it. She tries a craft, and then a couple of them she decided, I am not going to do that again. Decorating and lots of cleaning videos. I've really been intrigued with her cooking styles. She uses these really long, they're called cooking chopsticks, and she'll whisk eggs with it and flip over foods in the pan, like tongs and pasta, stuff like that. So I had to get some. And I also got these wooden eating spoons. They look so cute. And so they're not that expensive either on Amazon. And then she uses this 4-section egg pan. And they're 4 round sections on this pan. And it's like a ceramic cooking surface. And it makes the cutest silver dollar pancakes, eggs in a round shape, Canadian bacon. Like she could cook like a whole breakfast in there with like the ham on a couple of the circles and the eggs on the other circles. And it's versatile. You can cook mini burgers in there. You could cook potato pancakes in there. So I ordered it again on Amazon, and I use this pan at least 3 times a week. I've made English muffin breakfast sandwiches, and everything is in that perfect size and shape for the English muffin. And I've made the silver dollar pancakes, so cute and yummy. So I'm going to put links to these on my podcast blog. All right, that's all I have for you this week. Thank you so much for listening, and much love to all of you. Until next time, take time to make or decorate something. Bye-bye. If you would like a bonus episode every month, become a patron and support the Make and Decorate podcast show at my Patreon page, Make and Decorate. For extended show notes with links and photos to what we've talked about, visit my podcast blog at makeanddecorate.com. And remember to take some time for yourself to be creative. Bye-bye.